Hey guys, Mr. Boyd here with the first in our series of videos this week. As you're watching the video, be sure to pause and write down notes in your notebook. Anytime I pop up something on the screen, you should write those things down to remember and be ready to discuss them tomorrow in class. So our first video is called What is History? Yes, JB, you had your hand up.
Mr. Boyd, history's just about a bunch of old dead people.
No, JB, that's not what history is. Okay. Our first section is about history, not what JB said. History, if you look at the word, says his story. History is a story, the story of humans from our earliest beginnings to this very moment. Throughout history, humans have fought, failed, grown, and learned. History tells us about power. Yes, JB.
Hey, Mr. Boyd, you know all the characters in my video games have lots of power. I get stronger every time I play.
No, JB, it's not about the power in your video games. History tells us about power, who has it and who doesn't, what happens as a result of the people having that power, what people believed, how they lived, and how they invented amazing things to improve their lives. Yes, JB.
Hey, Mr. Boyd, are those amazing inventions like my Xbox?
Yeah, you could say that, JB. Sometimes history is bloody and terribly unfair. You can always learn something from it. So now let's talk about the real deal about history. There are two big concepts that we will cover. Big concept number one says there will never ever be just one version of factual history. There's not just one story. Yes, JB?
So you're telling me I have to learn two versions of history, Mr. Boyd?
No, JB. What that means is archaeologists and historians are constantly discovering new artifacts and sources. Sometimes the accepted facts turn out to be wrong for when they find new sources. There are a lot of untold stories in history. Many people have written about events and ideas, but way more people never wrote one word. They did not know how to write, they did not have time, or they were not allowed to. Whole groups were left out: women, native people, enslaved people, and the poor.
That's not cool.
You're right about that, JB. One of our first vocabulary words this year is a scholar. And a scholar is a person who completed advanced studies in a certain area. Historians are scholars of the lives, events, and stories of past peoples. Big concept number two says it matters who is telling the story. Yes, JB.
Yeah, Stan Lee tells the best stories. I like George Lucas stories too.
Yeah, JB, those are some really great storytellers. I like their stories too, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Most people in the past could not read or write. People who could were mostly males in positions of power, like scribes, kings, priests, and monks. Modern historians are filling in the gaps, however. They're finding things like diaries from a wealthy woman who would have been allowed to be literate, or a letter from a slave who had learned to read and write on his own. Powerful people did not write about people they considered to be below them. Yes, JB?
I consider a lot of people to be below me in Fortnite.
Okay, JB. There were some exceptions, however. Spanish monk Fra Bartolomeo de las Casas wrote about the horrors endured by enslaved people when he came over with Columbus. History is growing every day as new sources are found. Yes, JB?
I found $1 in the parking lot the other day.
That's not what we're talking about, JB. History depends on the point of view. History is told from different points of view, like the king or the peasant, and you know they would have very different stories to tell. Just like me and you, as the teacher and student, may tell stories differently based on what happened in the classroom because we see it from a different point of view. Yes, JB.
Yeah, like I changed the point of view on my video games. I like to see the little man running around on the screen.
Okay, JB. Guys, I hope you have learned and got some good notes tonight from this video. Make sure you write down the things that you have seen that popped up on the screen, and if you need to go back and pause and rewatch it, rewatch the video. Okay? Have a good night and come in tomorrow ready for our meeting of the court to discuss your notes.